Women, I'm going to admit something here. I hate to admit it. I'm a very liberated woman of the new millennium, but in all my years of counseling both male and female, I learned early on, men are so much better at getting their needs met. How many women would agree with that? If a guy has a need, he goes after it, doesn't worry about it, doesn't feel guilty about it, he just moves on, gets it met, goes to the next step, correct? Let me give you a little example. Let's do a little role play in here. Let's pretend all the men in the audience, you're my husband. You and I are happily married. This has been a difficult year of work, though. The last 2 weeks, very stressful. So guys, you and I, we're going to take off this Saturday. We're going to get in our car. No beepers, no phones, no kids. We're just going to get in the car and do a little 4-day bed and breakfast tour around the state. How's that sound? Only one problem, guys, you're starving. You are so hungry. We had no food in the refrigerator. We can't find a restaurant. You are so hungry now that you can't stand it. All of a sudden, men, we come across the hill. There it is. Great big green interstate sign says, food, next exit. Men, what do? Get off. Do you ask permission? Look at him. No. Guy has a need. It's called hunger. As an answer, it's called food. He goes in, gets himself a sandwich, cup of coffee. He's headed back down the highway, less than 9 minutes. What a great way to go through life. Now, let's turn it around. Women. Now, first of all, let me ask all the women here. How many women in this room are very independent? Sure you are. So am I. Women, we have come so far professionally. We have broken every glass ceiling there is to break. We are CEOs of major companies. Women are coaches of major sports teams. We are prime ministers of countries. Yet do you know that the average woman today is no better at getting her personal needs met than she was 100 years ago? Women, we're starving. We've been hungry for 2 hours. We come across signs that says, food next exit. The average woman today turns to her spouse or significant other and says what? Honey, are you hungry? What is that about? Honey, are you hungry? Do you know that the average woman, if she has a personal need, puts it in the form of a question rather than a statement? How many women would turn and say, John, I'm hungry. I don't really care whether you are or not. Get off now. That doesn't even sound right. Women, every time you put a personal need in the form of a question rather than making an assertive statement, you're underestimating the male brain. Let's now discuss the male brain. The male brain is awesome, complex, exquisite. In fact, the only analogy I can give to the male brain is a computer, which is the most amazing invention in the history of mankind. But like a computer, there's no software been invented that we could insert into a computer that will allow the computer to read the hidden message beneath the literal inputted information. How many men in this room would say you're fairly literal? Sure you are. We say, honey, are you hungry? His computer brain says, no, I'm not. Thanks for asking. He keeps driving, we pass the exit. Next food, 78 miles. Okay, women, what do we do now? If he didn't love us enough to read our minds and know what we meant to say, even though we never said it, what do? Oh, pout. There's a little look. We learned it when we were 2. It goes like this. And we're going to teach him a little lesson, aren't we? We're going to give him the silent treatment. Are there any men in here that have ever once or twice received the silent treatment? Women, that's your biggest mistake. Haven't you figured out it takes the average man 1 hour to realize you're not speaking? And if you asked him, he'd say without a doubt, this is the greatest hour in the whole vacation. He's just loving this hour. He's got the sunroof back, the windows down, the radio's up, the muscles in his neck are starting to relax. He's having a grand time. In fact, do you know what he's thinking in that hour that we're not speaking? He's thinking, what a great vacation. Gosh, I love her. How great is it to be so close to another human being that we don't have to fill up the time with stupid inane small talk. We can just enjoy the peace and quiet of one another's company. He's loving us more every minute we don't open our mouth. And we're getting madder every minute we don't open our mouth. Another hour goes by. We move into phase 2. It's called the female sigh. Let's hear it. Oh. He doesn't respond. He doesn't answer. Another hour goes by. Now women, we're ticked. We kick, hit, drop something, smash something. Men, you have no choice now but to ask us, what's wrong? Do you want to know? No, look at him. No. Man could go the rest of his life not know the answer to this question. Bless his heart, why does he ask? I always say to women, how do you know if a guy loves you? And they go, he says I love you. No, he could say that and not even mean it. You want to know whether the man in your life cares about you, truly cares about you? Does he ever ask you these two words, what's wrong? Because I'm going to tell you something, women. Men aren't afraid of death, disease, torture, or war. You know what wakes a man up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat? The very thought that tomorrow you will have him involved in a discussion about the relationship. For him to utter the words, what's wrong, are the scariest, most loving words he could ask. So bless his heart, he finally says, what's wrong? Do we now look at him and say, I'll tell you what's wrong, I've been hungry for 2 hours, now get off. Is that what we do? Oh, he says, what's wrong? We answer, nothing. His computer brain says, good, and he keeps on driving.